Hello, fifth graders. Today we're going to be reading a little bit of this book, Out of the Dust. This was supposed to be from our poetry unit, so we're going to read a little bit of it today. It is by Karen Hesse. And just a little bit of background. You'll find out more as we read, but this book is told by the perspective of Billy Joe, right there, in the time of the Dust Bowl in 1934, and she's in Oklahoma. And one other thing, I'll try to point it out as I read. This book is broken up into different sections. So this section is going to be told in the time of winter, 1934. Just to give you guys a little bit of perspective as you read, it might make a little bit more sense about the things that Billy Joe is talking about. Okay, so beginning, 1920. As summer wheat came ripe, so did I. Born at home on the kitchen floor, Ma crouched barefoot, bare-bottom, over the swept floors, because that's where Daddy said it'd be best. I came too fast for the doctor, bawling as soon as Daddy wiped his hand around inside my mouth. To hear Ma tell it, I hollered myself red the day I was born. Red's the color I've stayed ever since. Daddy named me Billy Joe. He wanted a boy. Instead, he got a long-legged girl with a wide mouth and cheekbones like bicycle handles. He got a red-headed, freckled face, narrow-hipped girl with a fondness for apples and a hunger for playing fierce piano. From the earliest I can remember, I've been restless in this little panhandle shack we call home, always getting in Ma's way with my pointy elbows and fidgety legs. By the summer I turned 9, Daddy had given up about having a boy. He tried making me do. I look just like him. I can handle myself most everywhere he puts me, even on the tractor, though I don't like that very much. Ma tried having other babies. It never seemed to go right, except with me. But this morning, Ma let on as how she's expecting again. Other than the 3 of us, there's not much family to speak of. Daddy, the only boy Kelby left since Grandpa died from a cancer that ate up most of his skin, and Aunt Ellis, almost 14 years older than Daddy and living in Lubbock, a way south of here, and a whole world apart to hear Daddy tell it. And Ma, with only great Uncle Floyd, old as ancient Indian bones and mean as a rattler, rotting away in that room down in Dallas. I'll be nearly 14, just like Aunt Alice was when Daddy was born, but by the time this baby comes. Wonder if Daddy will get his boy this time. January 1934. So Billy Joe was born in August 1920, but now she's letting on that her ma's expecting this baby by the time that it is January 1934. So winter 1934, like the author said it was written. Rabbit Battles is the title of this. And you'll also notice too, you can't really see it because I'm reading it a little bit away from you, but this book is actually broken up into a series of small little poems. Those poems are broken up into like Winter 1934, but then there's little poems. Like this one is called Rabbit Battles. So think about that. I know we were starting our poetry unit, so this, you can see, is one of the books we were supposed to read, and it just has little poems that I'll try to point them out as we get to a new poem, but the one we just read was one, and now this is one, Rabbit Battles. Mr. Noble and Mr. Romney have a bet going on as to who can kill the most rabbits. It all started at the rabbit drive last Monday over to Sturgis, when Mr. Noble got himself worked up about the damage done to his crop by jacks. Jacks is another word for rabbits. Mr. Romney swore he had more rabbit trouble than anyone in Cimarron County. They pledged revenge on the rabbit population, wagering who could kill more. They ought to just shut up. Betting on how many rabbits they can kill? Honestly, grown men clubbing bunnies to death makes me sick to my stomach. I know rabbits eat what they shouldn't, especially this time of year when they could hop halfway to Liberal and still not find food. But Miss Freeland says if we keep up plowing under the stuff they ought to be eating, what are they supposed to do? Mr. Noble and Mr. Romney came home from Sturgis Monday with 20 rabbits apiece, a tie. It should have stopped there, but Mr. Romney wasn't satisfied. He said Noble cheated. He brought in rabbits somebody else killed, and so the contest goes on. Those men, they used to be best friends. Now they can't be civil with each other. They scowl as they pass on the street. I'm scowling too, but scowling won't bring the rabbits back. They're all skinned and cooked and eaten by now. At least they didn't end up in Romney and Noble's cook pots. They went to families that needed the meat. So January 1934. Again, think about that. Why do you think they needed that meat? That time of the Dust Bowl. So if you try and remember what that time was like for Americans, okay? So this poem is then called Losing Livy. Livy Gilligan moved away. I didn't want her to go. We've been friends since first grade. The farewell party was Thursday night at the Old Rock Schoolhouse. Livy had something to tease each of us about, like Ray, sleeping through reading class, and Hillary, who on her speed writing test put even ton of children instead of an even 10. Livy said goodbye to each of us, separately. She gave me a picture she made of me sitting in front of a piano, wearing my straw hat, an apple halfway to my mouth. I handed Livy the memory book we all filled with our different slants. I couldn't get the muscles in my throat relaxed enough to tell her how much I'd miss her. Livy helped clean her own party, wiping spilled lemonade, gathering sandwich crust, sweeping cookie crumbs from the floor, while the rest of us went home to study for semester reviews. Now Livy's gone west, out of the dust, on her way to California, where the wind takes a rest sometimes. And I'm wondering what kind of friend I am, wanting my feet on that road to another place instead of Livy's. January 1934. This one's called Me and Mad Dog. Arlie Waterdale, who teaches music once a week at our school, though Ma says he's no teacher at all, just a local song plugger. Arlie Waterdale asked if I'd like to play a piano solo at the Palace Theater on Wednesday night. I grinned, pleased to be asked, and said, that'd be all right. I didn't know if Ma would let me. She's an old mule on the subject of my schooling. She says, you stay home on weeknights, Billy Joel. And that's mostly what I do. But Arlie Waterdale said, the management asked me to bring them talent, Billy Joe, and I thought of you. Even before Mad Dog Craddock, I asked. You and Mad Dog, Arlie Waterdale said. Darn that blue-eyed boy with his fine face and his smooth voice, twice as good as a plowboy, has any right to be. I suspected Mad Dog had come first to Arlie Waterdale's mind, but I didn't get too wild. Not so wild I couldn't say yes. January 1934. This one is called Permission to Play. So now we don't know, she doesn't know yet if her ma's going to let her play. So let's first see, this might give us a little bit more insight. Sometimes when Ma is busy in the kitchen or scrubbing or doing wash, I can ask her something in such a way I annoy her just enough to get an answer, but not so much I get a no. That's a way I found of gaining what I want, by catching Ma off guard, especially when I'm after permission to play piano. Right out asking her is no good. She always gets testy about me playing, even though she's the one who truly taught me. Anyway, this time I caught her in the slow stirring of biscuits, her mind on other things, maybe the baby growing inside her. I don't know, but anyhow, she was distracted enough. I was determined enough this time. This time I got just what I wanted, permission to play at the Palace. January 1934. Okay, so we're going to stop there for today. But we just learned that maybe Billy Joe did get permission to play at the Palace, so that might be what we read about a little bit later on. So we were just introduced to Billy Joe. You can kind of picture as this little girl down here, and she's out in Oklahoma with her ma and her dad in the time of 1934, which is in the time of the Dust Bowl, which I think we've all learned a little bit about. But if you need a little bit more information, you could definitely look it up. Find out what Americans might have been going through, especially in Oklahoma, the Dust Bowl, all the issues that they might have arisen from that. Okay, so now from what we just read, I'm going to have you guys answer these questions. We're going to put them down below, but just to discuss them. So we have these questions. So the first one says, how does Billie Jo think her father feels about her being a girl? So we read in the very beginning that for the longest time, she's 14 now. So for 14 years, her dad has wanted a boy, and Billie Jo has been the only child that her father has had. So go back to what we read at the very beginning and try and think, how do you think Billie Jo felt about, how do you think she thought her dad felt about only having a girl and not having a boy? And then number 2, in what ways do you think the format, so the use of poems, helps the readers get into the story and understand Billie Jo? We haven't learned too much about poems just yet, but think about what we have learned, and this is just a little brainstorm, so don't be afraid. If you think the answer might be wrong, just share what you think. So down below we're going to put the questions, but just down below just comment what you might think the answers could be to the questions we just talked about. Okay? Well, hopefully we'll continue this book very soon, and see you guys soon. Bye.